20 failed 1970s restaurant chains that didn't survive. Welcome back to Who Remembers? Today, we're traveling back to the flavorful world of the 1970s, a time of bold colors, family road trips, and unforgettable meals. In this video, we'll explore iconic restaurants from the 70s that once filled our plates and hearts, but have since vanished. Wags. Next on the list is Wags, an ambitious attempt by Wendy's to break into the casual dining market in the late 1970s. Designed as more than just a fast food spot, Wags aimed to create a relaxed, family-friendly atmosphere where people could enjoy a sit-down meal without the formality of fine dining. The menu was classic American comfort food. Think burgers, steaks, and sandwiches, served in generous portions and priced to appeal to the middle class. It hit the sweet spot for those looking for a satisfying meal without breaking the bank. But here's a twist. Wags was actually a brainchild of Walgreens, not Wendy's. Back in the 1970s, drugstores were experimenting with ways to attract customers, and launching a restaurant was one of their boldest moves. At first, it worked. Wags offered what many considered a cut above the average diner. Their roast beef sandwiches were legendary, and they served breakfast all day long, a novelty at the time. A Wags experience often meant a juicy diner-style burger with crispy fries, a creamy milkshake, or even pancakes and club sandwiches late into the night. It filled a gap that most modern fast food joints still don't. People loved Wags. But despite early popularity, trouble loomed in the 1980s. The casual dining scene started evolving fast. Newcomers like TGI Fridays and Chili's offered more vibrant menus, hipper environments, and trendier food options. Wags didn't keep up. Its straightforward approach and lack of menu innovation started to feel outdated. As customer expectations shifted, Wags began to lose its appeal. By the late 1980s, Walgreens started phasing out the brand, selling off locations, and refocusing on its core drugstore business. In 1991, they pulled the plug entirely, selling most remaining Wags sites. Chi-Chi's. First up on our list is a restaurant that introduced bold, exotic Tex-Mex flavors to mainstream America, Chi-Chi's. Founded in Minneapolis, Chi-Chi's quickly became a household name in the Tex-Mex scene thanks to its lively decor and festive atmosphere. By the late 1970s, Chi-Chi's had expanded rapidly, opening over 200 locations across the country and popularizing dishes that would become Tex-Mex staples. Who could forget their signature crispy nachos smothered in melted cheese, jalapenos, and every topping under the sun? Or the legendary chimichangas that seemed to define the menu? Chi-Chi's wasn't just about food. It created a full-on experience. Diners sipped margaritas under colorful lights, surrounded by upbeat music and generous portions. The family-style meals made it the perfect spot for birthdays, gatherings, and Friday night dinners. At first, Chi-Chi's was a smash hit, but the seeds of its downfall were planted before the decade was out. While their take on Mexican cuisine felt new and exciting at first, it remained firmly in the realm of Americanized Tex-Mex, heavy on fried foods, refried beans, and cheese-drenched entrees. As the late 70s ushered in a wave of authentic regional Mexican restaurants and an increased availability of fresh produce in grocery stores, Chi-Chi's began to fall behind. The brand didn't adapt to emerging trends that prioritized fresh, healthy, and more varied ingredients. Then came the fatal blow. In 2003, a hepatitis A outbreak struck a Pennsylvania Chi-Chi's location. The source? Contaminated green onions. Over 600 people were infected, and 4 tragically died. The lawsuits that followed were devastating, and the damage to Chi-Chi's reputation was irreversible. From a booming chain offering a taste of something new to a tragic story of food safety gone wrong, Chi-Chi's faded from the American dining scene. After the outbreak, no one wanted to take the risk again. The party was officially over, Victoria Station. One of the most unique dining concepts to roll out in the early 1970s was Victoria Station. Founded by 3 Harvard Business School graduates, the restaurant was themed around the charm of old train stations. Many of its locations were even constructed using actual converted railway cars. This nostalgic, immersive setting made Victoria Station more than just a place to eat. It was an experience. With a menu centered on American classics like steaks and barbecue ribs, it quickly became a favorite among middle-class families and travelers looking for hearty meals in a fun-themed environment. By the mid-1970s, Victoria Station was booming. The chain expanded rapidly to over 100 locations across the United States and even internationally. Its railway-themed decor and crowd-pleasing menu helped build a loyal customer base. But behind the scenes, trouble was brewing. As the decade came to a close, rising food and operating costs began eating into profits. Victoria Station struggled to maintain the high quality that had made it famous. Meanwhile, customer expectations were shifting. Sleeker, more modern competitors emerged, and Victoria Station failed to update its menu or decor to keep up. By the early 1980s, financial problems hit hard. Poor management decisions and aggressive overexpansion led to a significant drop in revenue. Despite attempts to revitalize the brand with updated interiors and new menu items, the magic had faded. In 1986, the company filed for bankruptcy. By the end of the decade, most locations had closed for good. By the early 1990s, Victoria Station had all but disappeared from the American dining landscape. Bennigan's. When it comes to casual dining, Bennigan's was one of the first chains to truly define the category in the United States. Founded in 1976 by Norman Brinker, Bennigan's quickly became a go-to destination for middle-class families and young professionals alike. With the energy of a lively pub, affordable prices, and signature drinks, Bennigan's carved out a unique niche. It was the kind of place you'd hit up after work or on the weekends, a relaxed setting that blended the comfort of dining out with the fun of a night out. The chain's suburban locations, often near shopping centers, made it easily accessible. At its peak, Bennigan's was the kind of restaurant where hardworking parents would take the whole family for a special treat. For many, it wasn't just a meal, it was a memory. Some fans even considered Bennigan's a better choice than rivals like Chili's, TGI Fridays, Applebee's, Red Robin, or Ruby Tuesday. It had the perfect mix of upbeat atmosphere, generous portions, and what some swear were the best chicken tenders in the world. Today, about 15 Bennigan's locations still operate in the U.S., but most fans agree they don't quite capture the same spirit that made the brand shine back in the 70s and 80s. Do you have any family memories tied to one of these restaurants? Birthdays, road trips, or late-night stops? Arthur Treacher's Fish and Chips. Here's another uniquely themed chain, Arthur Treacher's Fish and Chips. Named after the British actor Arthur Treacher, the restaurant was founded in 1969 with a mission to bring crisp, golden fried fish to American diners. By the mid-1970s, Arthur Treacher's had exploded across the U.S., with over 800 locations nationwide. In a burger-dominated world, they offered something different: seafood. Their signature dish? Atlantic cod, perfectly battered and fried to a crispy golden brown. Thick-cut, hand-prepared fries made the ideal sidekick. And who could forget the hush puppies? Those sweet, savory fried dough balls were the perfect complement to a fish and chips basket. For anyone looking to break out of the burger rut, Arthur Treacher's was a welcome alternative. But change was coming fast. As American consumers grew more health-conscious, deep-fried foods began to fall out of favor. Supply issues also forced the chain to swap out cod for cheaper, less flavorful fish, a switch customers noticed. Competitors began offering grilled fish, shrimp, and other lighter fare. Franchisees grumbled about rising royalty fees and decreasing corporate support. The restaurant interiors felt outdated, and marketing failed to connect with the younger generation. As economic pressures mounted and the fast food landscape grew crowded, Arthur Treacher's began to decline sharply by the late 1970s. Most locations closed during the 1980s. Though a handful still survive today, the brand's fall is a reminder of just how fast food trends and fortunes can change. Burger Chef. Back to the world of fast food now, and we have Burger Chef, a true pioneer of the industry. Founded in 1954, Burger Chef quickly grew into one of the largest restaurant chains in the U.S. during the 1970s. At its peak, it had more than 1,200 locations, second only to McDonald's. Burger Chef was known for innovation. They introduced flame-broiled burgers, and their signature Works Bar allowed customers to customize their meals with toppings of their choice, a do-it-yourself concept that felt fresh and exciting. They were also one of the first chains to offer a combo meal, and they helped popularize the idea of the salad bar. Their Super Chef burger, a hearty competitor to McDonald's Big Mac, became a fan favorite. The menu also included milkshakes, fried chicken, and fish sandwiches, making Burger Chef a true one-stop shop. Rapid expansion helped the chain become a household name, but things started to unravel after General Foods acquired it in 1968. The new ownership failed to manage the brand effectively, leading to inconsistent food quality and confusing marketing. As competition from fast food giants like McDonald's and Burger King intensified, Burger Chef began to lose ground. By the late 1970s, sales were on the decline. In 1982, General Foods sold off the remaining locations to Hardee's, and over the following years, the name Burger Chef gradually disappeared. By 1996, every last location had been converted or closed. The chain was officially gone. Stuckey's. Another icon of the American road trip? That would be Stuckey's. It all began as a modest roadside pecan stand in Georgia during the 1930s. But by the 1970s, Stuckey's had transformed into a nationwide symbol of family travel, with over 350 locations dotted along highways from coast to coast. If you were cruising down a major U.S. highway back then, chances are you couldn't miss a Stuckey's stop. It was the go-to spot to fill up your tank, grab a bite, and buy souvenirs you'd probably question later. But that was part of the charm. What made Stuckey's special was its warm, family-friendly vibe. The food wasn't five-star dining, but it was dependable. You could always count on a hot dog, a juicy burger, or a plate of Southern-style comfort food to keep you going. The real stars of the show, though, were the snacks, especially their famous pecan log rolls, pecan pralines, and an assortment of nut candies. Stuckey's carved out a unique space by blending roadside convenience with fast food service and a distinct southern flair. Those teal-blue roofs became beacons for road-weary travelers looking for a quick break and a sweet treat. But as larger corporate travel centers and national chains began to dominate the highways, Stuckey's struggled to compete. Changing travel habits and evolving dining preferences left the brand behind. They couldn't adapt quickly enough, and gradually, Stuckey's began to vanish from the map. Lums. Lums started out modestly in the early 1950s as a humble hot dog stand on Miami Beach. But by the 1970s, it had grown into a national chain with a quirky, unmistakable style that set it apart from other fast food joints. One of Lum's biggest claims to fame? It served beer alongside your meal, something few fast food places dared to do. The menu was a bit of a grab bag: burgers, sandwiches, and of course, their legendary hot dogs steamed in beer-battered buns. Those beer-steamed buns made every bite feel a little more upscale. And let's not forget the Lum's Special, a hot dog piled high with toppings, wrapped in that iconic soft bun. It was simple, satisfying, and just different enough to keep people coming back. The vibe inside Lum's was unique too. With dark wood interiors, corner bars, and a cozy pub-like atmosphere. It felt more like a neighborhood tavern than a traditional fast food place. It wasn't exactly kid-friendly, but it found a loyal audience nonetheless. Still, the novelty eventually wore off. As the 1980s approached and competition grew, Lum's struggled to evolve. Its once distinct offerings no longer stood out, and the brand slowly faded away, with most locations gone by the mid-80s. The Brown Derby. One of the most iconic restaurants in Hollywood history was the Brown Derby. Established in 1929, this was the place to see and be seen in Tinseltown. Its most famous location, shaped like an actual derby hat, sat proudly on Wilshire Boulevard and became a magnet for movie stars, producers, and anyone looking to rub elbows with the Hollywood elite. By the 1970s, the Brown Derby had expanded to several locations, including one inside Walt Disney World. Despite the growth, the chain always held onto its sense of glamour. The menu was elegant, with standout dishes like the legendary Cobb salad, invented by the restaurant's owner, Bob Cobb. Other offerings included roast prime rib, fried chicken, and a lineup of classic American entrees. What truly set the Brown Derby apart was its ambiance. The walls were covered with caricatures of the famous guests who dined there, actors, directors, and stars from every corner of the entertainment world. But even with its legacy and charm, the Brown Derby couldn't escape the changing tides of business. By the late 20th century, financial troubles caught up with it, and despite its golden past, the iconic restaurant chain filed for bankruptcy and faded from the spotlight. Wimpy's. Let's talk about Wimpy's. Originally founded in Chicago in the 1930s, the chain didn't hit its stride until the 1950s through the 1970s, when it briefly carved out a place in the American burger scene. Wimpy's tried to elevate the fast food experience. Unlike most burger joints, they served their meals on real plates, with actual silverware. It was one of the few places where you could sit down and eat a quarter-pounder style burger with a knife and fork. They developed a loyal following, especially for that burger and their quirky bender in a bun, a sausage sandwich that had its own cult fan base. But part of fast food's appeal is the speed and the freedom to eat with your hands. Wimpy's upscale touches may have been charming, but they also set it apart in a way that didn't always work in its favor. The biggest issue, however, was consistency. Locations varied in quality and experience, and Wimpy's couldn't keep up with the rapidly evolving fast food industry. By the end of the 1970s, most Wimpy's locations in the U.S. had shut down. Though the name lives on in other countries, in America, it's just another fond memory from a bygone burger era. Beefsteak Charlie's. What about Beefsteak Charlie's? This legendary chain dates all the way back to the early 1900s, but it truly became a New York City icon in the 1970s. Their mission was simple: serve up affordable steak dinners. But what made Beefsteak Charlie's stand out was the sheer abundance. We're talking all-you-can-eat steak, endless shrimp cocktails, and a salad bar overflowing with pasta salads, coleslaw, and fresh fixings. It wasn't just a meal. It was a buffet experience with a splash of indulgence. And let's not forget the unlimited beer and wine, which gave the whole experience an upscale touch at a working-class price. By the late 70s, Beefsteak Charlie's had evolved into a full-blown chain, expanding rapidly across the East Coast. It was the kind of place where every night felt like a celebration. But the magic didn't last. By the mid-1980s, rising operating costs and the massive volume of food given away began eating into profits. The very thing that made the brand special became unsustainable. Worse yet, as the 80s drew to a close, quality control slipped. Longtime customers noticed the food just wasn't what it used to be, and they stopped coming. By the early 1990s, Beefsteak Charlie's had started to fade away, joining the ranks of once great New York eateries lost to time. Do you remember what your favorite dish was at any of these places? Sandy's. Let's turn our attention to Sandy's, a fast food chain launched in 1958 as a direct competitor to McDonald's. What made Sandy's stand out early on was its charming Scottish heritage theme, complete with a bagpiper mascot and catchy slogans. It was a whimsical touch that drew in families and kids alike. During the 1960s, Sandy's expanded quickly, setting up shop in multiple states. Their calling card? A no-frills 20-cent hamburger that offered great value. They were also known for thick, creamy milkshakes that kept customers coming back. But the 1970s brought fierce competition in the fast food world. Giants like McDonald's and Burger King began to dominate, and Sandy's struggled to keep pace. They tried to modernize, eventually dropping the Scottish theme. But it was too little, too late. The chain began to lose its identity, and as customer loyalty shifted toward bigger brands, Sandy's became vulnerable. In 1973, Hardee's acquired Sandy's, and by 1979, every remaining location had been rebranded. Just like that, a once promising McDonald's rival had vanished from the American fast food scene. Minnie Pearl's fried chicken. Here's a cautionary tale about growing too quickly. Minnie Pearl's fried chicken. Launched in 1966, the chain took its name and inspiration from the beloved country comedian Minnie Pearl. The idea was to capitalize on her fame by creating a Southern-style fried chicken franchise that could go toe-to-toe with KFC. And for a while, it looked like a hit. The chain expanded at lightning speed, opening more than 300 locations across the South and Midwest in just a few years. But the rapid growth came at a cost. Despite the hype, the chain quickly developed a reputation for inconsistent food and poor service. Promoted as a premium Southern dining experience, the reality was far less appetizing. Customers complained about undercooked or unevenly prepared meals and fried chicken that lacked both crispiness and seasoning, the very heart of what it promised to deliver. The overzealous franchising led to financial instability, and poor management only made matters worse. By 1971, the company was hit with lawsuits alleging mismanagement and financial fraud. Negative press crushed public confidence and eroded customer loyalty. As locations began to close, the chain entered a freefall. By the mid-1970s, Minnie Pearl's fried chicken had all but disappeared. Though some sources suggest it lingered into the 80s, most of its collapse took place earlier, making it a textbook example of a promising brand that flew too close to the sun. Geno's Hamburgers. Gino Marchetti, a legendary NFL Hall of Famer, decided to take a swing at the restaurant world with Geno's Hamburgers, founded in 1957. The chain quickly gained a loyal following for its hearty burgers, especially the Geno Giant, which many compared to McDonald's Big Mac but praised for its distinct flavor. What set Geno's apart was its early partnership with KFC, making it one of the first fast food chains to offer both burgers and fried chicken under the same roof. That made it a one-stop shop for hungry families, especially across the Mid-Atlantic, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey, where Geno's became a local favorite. Thanks to Marchetti's sports fame, the restaurants became popular hangouts for fans and families alike. But as competition intensified in the late 1970s, Geno's began to feel the heat. In an attempt to keep pace, the chain expanded too quickly. That led to quality control issues and a gradual erosion of the brand's reputation. By the early 1980s, customer traffic was slowing. In 1982, Marriott Corporation stepped in and acquired Geno's. Most of the locations were converted into Roy Rogers restaurants, and just like that, Geno's, once a rising star, vanished from the American fast food map. Sambo's. One of the most controversial chains on this list is Sambo's. Founded in 1957, the restaurant quickly gained popularity for its affordable, family-style dining and expansive breakfast menu, especially its pancakes. At first glance, it was just another friendly American diner. The name Sambo's came from combining the names of its founders, but it also evoked the children's book the story of Little Black Sambo, which influenced the restaurant's branding and decor. As cultural awareness grew, that association became a major point of controversy. During the 1960s and 70s, Sambo's saw massive success, expanding to over 1,100 locations nationwide. It was beloved for its all-day breakfast and casual vibe. But by the late 1970s, public backlash intensified. Critics condemned the name and imagery as racially insensitive. What had once seemed playful was now seen by many as offensive. Though the company tried to rebrand and distance itself from the book's legacy, the damage was done. On top of that, the rapid expansion had put serious financial strain on the business. By the early 1980s, Sambo's was struggling to stay afloat. In 1982, the company filed for bankruptcy, and most of its locations were closed or sold off. Shoney's Big Boy. If you grew up anywhere near a Shoney's Big Boy, chances are it felt like an extension of your own kitchen, only with better pancakes. Born in the late 1940s, Shoney's paired its now iconic Big Boy mascot with a towering double-decker burger and a warm, family-friendly vibe. It wasn't just a restaurant. It was part of the routine. A birthday, a graduation, or just a lazy Sunday morning, Shoney's had you covered. Their signature Big Boy burger came stacked and juicy, layered with lettuce, tomato, and that unforgettable special sauce. But let's be honest, it was the breakfast that stole the show. Those golden hash browns? That was comfort food, done right. Add in fluffy omelets, bacon, and pancakes that soaked up syrup like a sponge, and you had yourself a feast any time of day. Families loved it because you could load up your plate without emptying your wallet. The all-you-can-eat salad bar? A bonus. Sadly, Shoney's began to fade as tastes changed and competition stiffened. While Bob's Big Boy still stands out in California, it's just not the same. If you miss the old Shoney's, you're not alone. It was the definition of feel-good food. Thank you for watching. To continue with more content, comment yes to let us know you're still following. Red Barn. Let's take a look at Red Barn, a chain that once aimed to reinvent fast food before becoming something of a punchline. Opening in the 1960s and growing steadily through the 1970s, Red Barn stood out thanks to its signature barn-shaped buildings and creatively named menu items like the Big Barney Burger and Chicken Hungry Sandwich. At its peak, Red Barn had over 300 locations across the United States, and it even experimented with innovation through its Barn Buffet, a self-serve setup that predated modern salad bars. Their flame-grilled burgers, crispy chicken sandwiches, and fresh salads had promise. But Red Barn struggled with an unclear brand identity. Was it a serious competitor to McDonald's, a novelty restaurant, a barn-themed diner? Even loyal customers weren't always sure. Worse, food quality varied wildly from location to location, leaving many customers unimpressed. Despite their early growth, Red Barn just couldn't maintain a consistent customer base. By the early 1980s, most Red Barn locations had either been shut down or converted into other restaurants. The once bold concept faded into obscurity, remembered more for its quirky look than its food. York Steakhouse. Another forgotten gem of mall-based dining was York Steakhouse, a cafeteria-style restaurant that made quite the impression. If you ever walked into one, you probably remember the atmosphere. It felt like a mix between a medieval banquet hall and a high school cafeteria. Founded by General Mills, York Steakhouse opened hundreds of locations inside shopping malls across the U.S. during the 1970s. The setup was simple, efficient, and affordable, just what busy shoppers needed after a long day of browsing. The restaurant became known for its tender steaks, baked potatoes, and warm buttered rolls. It wasn't fancy, but it delivered solid value and satisfying meals, making it a popular choice for families and mall-goers alike. Despite its peak popularity, York Steakhouse couldn't keep up with changing dining trends. Over time, Most locations were quietly closed down. Wetson's. Operating primarily in the New York area, Wetson's was a regional fast food chain that built a solid following in the 1960s and early 70s. Founded in 1959, Wetson's made its mark by offering budget-friendly meals with generous portions, most notably their signature Big W burger. They were known for charbroiled burgers, crispy fries, and retro-style car hop service that added a fun, nostalgic flair to the dining experience. The buildings were easy to spot too, often marked by large, eye-catching signage. At its peak, Wetson's grew to around 70 locations in the New York metro area. But competition was heating up, and when the chain merged with Nathan's Famous in the mid-1970s, the Wetson's brand quietly disappeared. Several factors played into the decline: lack of strict quality control, weak strategic adaptation, high operational costs, and a failure to reinvest in branding and infrastructure. Without a strong franchise model or innovation to keep up with industry giants, Wetson's couldn't survive. By the late 1970s, the once-loved New York burger spot had vanished from the fast food scene. 20 failed 1970s restaurant chains that didn't survive. You know, pizza has always been more than just food. Especially in America, it's a memory, a moment frozen in time. It's the sound of birthday parties filled with laughter, family outings on lazy weekends, late-night hangouts after a big game or study session. But time moves on. Places that were once packed and full of life are now just names we bring up in old conversations. Today, we won't go in any particular order. Let each name pop up like a spark that lights up a forgotten corner of your heart. Let's see which one makes you say, "Oh wow, I remember that place." Let's start with Dino's Pizzeria. This name might be unfamiliar to many in the US because Dino's originated in Canada. In 1959, Salvatore Pitot, an Italian immigrant from Sardinia, took a bold step to Canada at the age of 26. With little English, but a heart full of dreams, he worked various jobs, including construction. But then, Salvatore realized his true passion: sharing Italian culture through food. He opened a restaurant in Quebec, and later, in 1970, found Kirkland Lake, a place he felt was perfect to put down roots and start a family. And so, Dino's Pizzeria was born that same year. This was Kirkland Lake's first pizza joint. Salvatore's mission was clear: to spread the love of authentic pizza. He worked tirelessly to build Dino's not just into a successful eatery, but also into a community cornerstone. Dino's became one of the most popular tavern-style pizza places of its time. They were famous for their thin crust pies that satisfied diners from far and wide. Try to picture it: a cold winter night in Canada, stepping into the cozy Dino's, ordering a crispy thin crust pizza, chatting with friends or family. That community atmosphere, the connection that Salvatore worked so hard to build, must have been what made Dino's special. But despite being popular and loved by the community, even that was not enough to save them from the fate that happened to the final pizza chain on the original list. It seems that the changing times, changing tastes, and how people chose to eat pizza were hard to resist. The story of Dino's, about a place that was once a community cornerstone gradually fading into the past, is very similar to the story of another family-owned pizza place, Pasquale's Pizza. Do you remember Pasquale's Pizza? Maybe many folks will remember the Coral Springs location, which opened in 1988. But actually, the story of Pasquale's started much earlier, back in 1968. That's when George Sr. Pasquale, at just 16 years old, began learning the trade at a pizza joint called Bruno's Pizza Town in New Jersey. With only $400 in his pocket and a lot of IOUs, George Sr. opened the first Pasquale's restaurant in 1974. It was a pretty modest space, only about 150 square meters, enough room for 40 customers. The name Pasquale's was named after his father, Pasquale Marone. Maybe it wasn't the fanciest place, but it had a special authenticity. That wonderful smell of fresh tomato sauce, rich cheese, and baked dough coming from the oven. It was the smell of homemade, of care. George Sr. and his family believed in using the best quality ingredients for every dish. Not only did they have great pizza, but the menu also had a variety of familiar Italian-American dishes like pasta, subs, stromboli, salads, and even garlic bread and wings for appetizers. And the prices were very affordable, so anyone could stop by and enjoy. Pasquale's success, though slow but steady, came from that consistency in quality and that family atmosphere. They opened a slightly larger store in 1984 in Bricktown, New Jersey. Pasquale's tried its best to satisfy customers. Sadly, like so many business stories, increasing competition gradually pushed Pasquale's out of the game. Larger chains with more resources took over the market. Now, there are only about 4 Pasquale's locations scattered across the United States, and it's sad to think about places that used to be our go-to spots now just being tiny dots on a map, or worse, completely gone. The story of Pasquale's is similar to Sammy's Pizza. Heading back to the U.S., to Hibbing, Minnesota. Sam and Louise Perella opened Sammy's Pizza in 1954. The story started when Sam lost his job in the iron mine. They opened a smaller coffee shop first. Then, inspired by local veterans talking about pizza, Sam decided to go to California to learn how to make pizza. After a lot of effort, Sam was ready. They bought equipment, packed up their belongings, and moved to a larger space in Hibbing. On October 2nd, 1954, Sammy's Pizza officially opened. As one of the first pizza places in Hibbing, it's understandable that people flocked to try it. But what kept them coming back? It was the handmade quality in everything. Customers absolutely got high-quality pizza. Remember their spaghetti? It was almost heaven. Vegetables were fresh, hand-cut. Meat was locally sourced, and Wisconsin mozzarella cheese was shredded in-house. Those little details made all the difference. Everything was made very naturally, making customers unable to get enough. It felt like eating at home. Sammy's didn't just sell pizza, they sold care, sincerity in every dish. That homemade feeling, the meticulousness from choosing ingredients to the finished product, was what made Sammy's stick in the minds of those who visited. Pietro's Pizza. Pietro's Pizza was another popular chain that originated in the Pacific Northwest. Norm Colby founded Pietro's in 1957 in Longview, Washington. He developed this pizza place very well in the 70s, before selling it to Campbell's Soup Company. With more capital, Campbell helped Pietro's expand further, adding about 60 locations in Oregon and Washington, before selling it again in the late 1980s. Like many other pizza places of that era, Pietro's Pizza was loved for its family atmosphere. The big tables and open space attracted families for birthday parties. Schools often chose this place for events, too. Can you imagine kids running around the restaurant, the sound of laughter, and the delicious smell of pizza? They also had a buffet option that allowed families to enjoy a variety of pizzas and salads. Everyone loved eating at Pietro's Pizza. At its peak, they had nearly 80 restaurants across the United States. But by the 90s, things had changed. After being sold to a group of investors, the company couldn't compete with the bigger brands. Finally, they had to file for bankruptcy in 1994. Ownership changed hands a few more times, but there wasn't much that could be done to revive this name that had once thrived. Although they tried to keep the warm vintage interior, currently, not even 5 locations are operating across the United States. Which of these names brings back the most memories for you? Share it with us in the comments section. Red Barn. While primarily known as a burger joint, Red Barn also served pizza, and it was quite popular. Red Barn was founded in 1961 in Ohio, right in the middle of the 60s when America became a fast food nation. The chain was quite successful, with over 400 locations in the US, Canada, and even Australia. But what made Red Barn truly iconic was their brand. Each restaurant was designed to look like a red barn. This distinctive design, patented in 1962, immediately created a cozy, familiar feeling, like a home away from home for customers. Walking into a red barn to eat pizza, that was unique, right? Besides delicious pizza and cheesy goodness, they also had the Big Barney Burger, similar to today's Big Mac, fried chicken, fish sandwiches, and even a salad bar. But it was the delicious pizza and cheese that kept people flocking in. Remember their catchy jingle? When the hungries hit the Red Barn. Red Barn tried to survive the tough times of the 90s and early 2000s. But then, hard times, along with increasing competition, made business difficult. Eventually, Red Barn ran out of gas and folded. Only the image of the familiar Red Barn remains in the memories of those who used to eat there. Shakey's Pizza Parlor. This is a truly special name. Shakey's Pizza Parlor was the first pizza franchise in the U.S., founded in 1954 in Sacramento, California. The founder, Sherwood Shakey Johnson, got this nickname because of lingering nerve damage after a bout of malaria during World War II. But he didn't let that stop him. He even used it to name his new business. Shakey's beginning was quite bumpy. The first weekend, the pizza oven wasn't ready, so they had to serve beer to customers. Then Shakey used the profits from the beer to buy ingredients for pizza for Monday. Talk about a rough start. Tough credit free. But after that, things went much smoother. What made Shakey's different? They had live jazz bands performing right in the pizza parlor. This unique combination of live music and pizza turned Shakey's into a phenomenon, even helping to revive jazz in Sacramento. Shakey's was famous not just for pizza, but also for its music. Can you imagine that atmosphere? The smooth sound of a saxophone, the lively beat of drums, blending with the aroma of baked pizza. Customers came here not just to eat, but also to enjoy the music and that unique atmosphere. However, all that great jazz music could not save them from later problems. Shakey's changed ownership too many times, making decision-making messy. And when customer tastes changed too quickly, a business that relied too heavily on pizza and trumpets couldn't keep up. They gradually faded from the scene. Now, most people only vaguely remember the great music. Shakey's is proof that sometimes uniqueness can become a burden when times change. Mr. Gatti's Pizza. Mr. Gatti's Pizza was founded by James R. Gattis, a retired Air Force lieutenant colonel. Tired of doing nothing at home, he decided to try his hand at pizza. In 1964, he opened a pizza and hamburger restaurant in his hometown of Texas. From that experience, he and his wife moved to Austin, opened another pizza place, and named it The Pizza Place. The name was a bit generic, so he conducted a small survey, and his wife's maiden name, Gatti, won overwhelmingly. So, The Pizza Place was renamed Mr. Gatti's Pizza. The pizza at Mr. Gatti's was very good. Their sauce, made from fresh harvested tomatoes, was described as to die for. For toppings, they used smoked provolone cheese. Sounds delicious, doesn't it? With that quality, it was only natural that people liked to stop by for a quick bite on their way. By the 70s, Mr. Gatti's was very, very popular. Investors came to buy the chain and expanded it far beyond Texas. In the 80s, they added game rooms and buffet counters, enhancing the family dining experience and attracting more customers. Can you imagine parents eating the pizza buffet while the kids are engrossed in the game room? That was Mr. Gatti's at its peak. Sadly, Mr. Gatti's is also not as popular as it used to be. Time passing and many continuous changes in ownership of this pizza chain heavily affected the company's growth. Although it's still operating, its former glory has faded considerably. Showbiz Pizza and Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza Time Theater. The 70s and 80s saw a boom in video games, and a few pizza chains were very successful by combining pizza with arcade games and animatronic shows. The two most prominent names were Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza Time Theater and Showbiz Pizza. Nolan Bushnell, the creator of the famous Atari game, was the first to bring this idea to life with Pizza Time Theater in 1977. He wanted to bring video games from an adult environment to a kid-friendly environment. And it worked. Kids love to go there for the good food, and often even better atmosphere. The first Pizza Time Theater location opened in San Jose, California. This was the first restaurant to combine food with arcade games and animatronic shows, paving the way for the concept of family entertainment centers. At each location, you would find arcade games, amusement rides, and musical shows, along with a full menu of pizza and other fun foods. Remember the ball pits, crawl tubes, and especially the animatronic shows? Those singing, dancing robots, they were a magical world for kids back then. Robert L. Brock, a former partner of Bushnell, took a slightly different direction. He was worried Bushnell wasn't trying hard enough to lead in the animatronic space. So Brock left and founded Showbiz Pizza, or Showbiz Pizza Place, on March 3, 1980, in Kansas City, Missouri. Showbiz also had that unique blend of pizza, arcade games, and animatronic entertainment. Brock's risky move was successful. Showbiz thrived, thanks to the rising trends in arcade games and family entertainment. By 1984, Pizza Time Theater ran into difficulties and had to file for bankruptcy. Showbiz acquired them. Afterward, they tried to unify the two companies by changing the names of Showbiz locations to match Pizza Time. But all of these reconciliation efforts didn't go anywhere. As home video game systems like Nintendo became more popular, the business model based on on-site arcade games and animatronics gradually became outdated. Now, you rarely hear about either company. A similar sad story for those entertainment heavens of a bygone era. Remember those birthday parties at Chuck E. Cheese or Showbiz? The excitement of waiting for the robot show, trying to win as many tickets as possible for prizes, and of course, eating pizza in that lively atmosphere. Those are unforgettable memories. Round Table Pizza. Round Table, the last honest pizza. Their slogan was truly impressive. The founder, William R. Larson, was a high school dropout who, after 4 years serving in the U.S. Navy and working various unstable jobs, decided to try his hand at his own pizza parlor. He opened the place in late December 1959 in California and named it Round Table Pizza after the large, round redwood tables that he and his father built when he was young. Round Table Pizza focused on creating a welcoming atmosphere where families could enjoy great pizza together. Those big round tables weren't just furniture, they were symbols of gathering, sharing. It was the perfect place to relax and enjoy a delicious pizza after a little league baseball game. Round Table offered dine-in, takeout, and even delivery, serving every need, especially for tired young adults returning after intense tryouts. By 1978, they had over 200 Round Table Pizza locations across the U.S. Impressive growth. But things didn't last. In 2011, Round Table Pizza had to file for bankruptcy. Although they emerged from bankruptcy that same year, things were never the same. Like Shakey's, even with a great and beloved initial concept, Round Table couldn't maintain its position against market changes. Happy Joe's Pizza. Your grumpy boss shouldn't bother you. That's the lesson Happy Joe's Pizza wants to show us. Everything started in 1972. Lawrence Joseph. Happy Joe. Whitty was chewed out for throwing a kid's birthday party while working at Shakey's Pizza. So he thought, forget my grumpy boss, I'm going to make my own pizza. And he did. Happy Joe's Pizza was born in Bettendorf, Iowa. Their main selling points were great food and also a fun but quiet, cozy environment. This was a popular spot for birthday parties. And as word spread about their fun parties, so did their taco pizza, a rather new invention at the time. They even claimed to be the first pizza place to offer taco pizza. But perhaps we should take that with a grain of salt. What's certain is they had whipped ice cream, which they called yogurts. Customers loved their pizza, especially that unique taco pizza. That excited yet peaceful, cozy atmosphere made Happy Joe's special. But then, over time, their tastes started to change. And now, Happy Joe's is not as big as it used to be. From a story about turning frustration into business motivation, Happy Joe's also couldn't escape the harsh rule of market selection. Straw Hat Pizza. Straw Hat Pizza was founded on July 10, 1959, by Charlie Olson and Bill Henderlong. Both had previously worked in the pizza industry for Me and Ed's, but they believed they could do better. So they opened the first Straw Hat restaurant in 1960 in San Leandro, California. The name Straw Hat actually came from the hats worn by employees at other pizza places in California at the time. That was how they created a special brand for themselves. What was special about Straw Hat Pizza was its lighter, crispier crust than most other pizza crusts of the time. This contributed to their California-style pizza reputation. Remember their special flavors? Veggie pizza, oven, BBQ pizza, and even special chicken pizzas like Mushu and lemon pepper. Just the names sound creative. The environment here was also family-friendly, with special services like Charlie Horse, a free ride for kids. Straw Hat was primarily a dine-in restaurant, but also occasionally offered takeouts. Customers loved their pizza and service. At its peak, the company had over 200 locations. But then, as pizza chains like Domino's, Pizza Hut, and Papa John's began to expand, it became harder for a smaller business like Straw Hat Pizza to survive. Even with a unique crust and a great atmosphere, Straw Hat couldn't withstand the expansion of the giants. Sbarro. Sbarro is another family business story from Italy. Gennaro and Carmela Sbarro, along with their 3 sons, immigrated from Italy and founded Sbarro in 1956. That same year, they opened their first store, a salumeria, or Italian grocery store, in Brooklyn, New York. This store quickly became famous for its fresh food and Italian style. People loved the dine-in service. You could actually go there and eat a meal, not just grab takeout at the counter. This made Sbarro different from many other places that focused only on takeout or quick stand-up eating. As the 70s passed, Sbarro didn't stop. They opened 14 more locations in New York. What was valuable was they maintained the cozy, homemade feel in everything. All the food was still made from the original location in Bensonhurst, and Carmela continued to make her famous cheesecake. That feeling that everything was fresh, handmade, and Grandma Carmela was in the kitchen that made customers feel at home. Unfortunately, trouble started piling up for Sbarro in the 2000s. One of the biggest challenges was that their World Trade Center location was bombed in the 9/11 attacks. This tragedy, combined with other difficulties, forced the company to file for bankruptcy in 2014. Pizza Inn. Pizza Inn was founded in 1958 by 2 Texas brothers, F.J. Joe Spillman and R.L. Spillman. The first location was right across from the Southern Methodist University campus. The warm, welcoming atmosphere of the place quickly attracted students and adults alike to become regulars for pizza. The items on Pizza Inn's menu were innovative and loved by customers. Everyone loved their original thin-crust pizza. And here was the breakthrough: the pizza buffet concept they introduced in the late 60s. A pizza buffet. Think about it. At that time, how bold and appealing that idea was. You could eat as much as you wanted, try all sorts of pizza for one price. And that wasn't all. Pizza Inn also created many other special pizzas, like the taco pizza introduced in 1979 and pizzert, a dessert pizza launched in 1986. By the 90s, they also launched the famous bacon cheeseburger pizza. But what really kept customers coming back in the golden days was their distinctive, crispy, biscuit-like, slightly tangy sauce. That special flavor was something you couldn't find anywhere else. The company had tremendous growth between the mid-70s and 80s, even having endorsement deals with the famous Von Erich wrestling family. With Kerry, Kevin, and Mike Von Erich appearing in TV commercials, Pizza Inn became very big, at one point having nearly 800 different locations. However, serious debt forced them to file for bankruptcy in 1989, then emerge from bankruptcy in 1991, but finally had to be traded in 1994. A tumultuous journey. Pizza Inn is a story of innovation, buffet, special pizzas, but ultimately couldn't overcome financial difficulties and market changes. Are there any other pizza places from back in the day that I didn't mention, but were an important part of your memories? Share that with us. Pizza Haven. Ordering food is always great, at least when done right. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? Pizza Haven fully leveraged this. Ron Bean founded the company in 1958. Pizza Haven was one of the first companies to really popularize dial-a-pizza service. Their geographical location was also very strategic. The first location was in the University District, Seattle, near the University of Washington. Overworked students just had to call from their dorms and get delicious pizza delivered. Convenient, wasn't it? This convenience fueled Pizza Haven's growth in the 70s. They quickly grew into a chain of 42 restaurants across the Pacific Northwest and California. Business was so good that they even had locations overseas in countries like Russia, Poland, and the Middle East. An admirable international scale. But sadly, things went downhill in the late 1990s. They had a harder time dealing with increasing competition from better-funded national chains. They also faced difficulties with leasing locations in some malls. And finally, they made some poor decisions, according to Bean. All these factors, plus missing a tax payment, pushed Pizza Haven to file for Chapter 7 bankruptcy in 1998. The remaining stores all closed down, except for a few locations at Seattle Center. Noble Roman's Pizza. The success of this next pizza chain actually came from the failure of another pizza parlor. In 1969, Stephen Hughes and Gary Kennard bought a failing pizza parlor near Indiana University and officially turned it into a company in 1972. Hughes was a business school graduate. Noble Roman's was his effort to go into business for himself. Since they were right by the campus, students flocked there to spend money on their pizza. And can you blame them? The pizza was always made with fresh, high-quality ingredients, avoiding fillers in the meats and cheeses. And their pizza dough, made from specially milled high-protein flour and flavorful cornmeal, this set them apart from the competition. Quality was always guaranteed and consistent, so their growth was natural. As the college town's population grew with increasing student numbers, sales of Noble Roman's unique pizza soared throughout the 70s and 80s. They expanded outside Indiana, into Ohio and other states. By the mid-2000s, they had reached over 1,000 locations. An impressive journey, But unfortunately, the company faced challenges, leading to a decline in the number of locations and numerous lawsuits from franchisees due to operational issues. From a success story built on a failure, Noble Romans eventually couldn't avoid internal difficulties. Pistol Pete's Pizza. When the first Pistol Pete's Pizza opened in 1974, it was intended to be your average pizza restaurant. Just regular pizza and a couple of other drinks. However, over time, they became almost a carbon copy of Chuck E. Cheese, with a lot of games and entertainment. Like Chuck E. Cheese, this was the perfect fun dining experience, making it a regular choice for birthday parties and other family outings. The only difference? The games here were mostly for teenagers, unlike Chuck E. Cheese, which primarily catered to younger kids. But the food was really something that everyone could enjoy. There were different types of pizza as well as specialty pies. And they didn't just sell pizza. They also had pasta dishes, sandwiches, and even salads. You couldn't go there and not order something. Everything went well until 1995, when Pistol Pete's was bought out by Peter Piper Pizza. Peter Piper Pizza wanted to incorporate some of Pistol Pete's successful elements into their brand. For most people, that looked like a great business deal. But actually, that was just the beginning of the end for this pizza chain. Today, Pistol Pete's Pizza is a shadow of its former self. Only those of us who had birthday parties there might still remember something about Pistol Pete's. From a competitor, they are now just a part of history, absorbed by their rival. Godfather's Pizza. Godfather's Pizza. Everybody loves it. The first pizza chain on our original list, and near the end of this reversed list, was founded in 1973 in Omaha, Nebraska. Greg Johnson had the initial idea, but sold both the name and the pizza parlor to Willie Thyssen in 1974. With Thyssen in the driver's seat, things started moving very quickly. The chain grew rapidly and was honored by the National Restaurant Association as the fastest-growing franchise from 1977 to 79. At its peak, Godfather's Pizza had nearly 1,000 locations across the U.S. Their advertising was also quite good. Many of the TV commercials they ran featured lots of images from the famous Godfather movie. Their restaurants also had a gray, moody vibe that felt like stepping right out of the movie. To keep the Godfather theme going, their TV advertising slogan was, "A pizza you can't refuse." A very unforgettable slogan. But it wasn't just the catchy advertising that kept people coming back. The pizza was very good, made with generous cheese toppings and even vegetables. It was like a complete meal. They also had different types of breadsticks, fries, cookies, and pasta. Customers also had a lot of crust options to choose from: original, golden, mozzarella loaded, and thin. Sadly, changing tastes have caused their influence to wane in recent years. And the sad story of their decline is quite similar to many other pizza chains. Godfather's is an example of a brand that built success on a strong cultural image, had good products, but still couldn't escape the changes of time and taste. That's our journey through 20 names, pizza places that were once the place to be, but sadly have faded into history. If you found this trip down memory lane interesting and it brought back many emotions, don't forget to hit subscribe and share it with friends, those who also grew up with old memories. Thanks for joining me on this trip back to the past today. See you in the next Memory Journeys.